Okay, hello, it's Helen Mead here, and I am joined today by a gorgeous woman, Martina, who is a transformation coach, and it's really beautiful to have you here. Martina, I'll just give you a quick introduction just to give an idea of what Martina is doing in the world. She is guiding women who are entrepreneurs, women who are in corporate, to really support them as they move forward on their journey of transformation and evolution. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Helen. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited for our time together.
Yeah, me too. And we had quite a juicy chat when we first connected last week, so I'm really excited to see where we go today.
Yeah, I'm also super excited. We were so flowing and we spoke for such a long time and couldn't stop. So yeah, it was really cool. So let's see where it takes us today.
Yeah. So the topic of the day is all around evolving orgasms, and I know that you have a really amazing journey and a story to share in this part of your life and your evolution. Do you want to just share a little bit about your sexual journey and your sort of how did your journey of sexual discovery start, and was that with the clitoris, or how did it begin?
Yeah, no, certainly. So for me, and that was something that intrigued me for such a long time. It also scared me. It also made me feel weird, wrong, because I discovered orgasms when I was like, I think around 3. I don't think it was much younger, but I wasn't much older either, for sure not. Because I just remember still my haircut I had, and that was in a specific, like in the first year of kindergarten, let's say that way. And I don't know how I discovered that, to be honest with you, but I just discovered how to have an orgasm, and it really felt good. And that was for quite some time my kind of secret. I mean, my conversations with my parents were, never really deep or really like, very loving. So obviously that was for me put in a box, and I just did whenever. And now thinking back, it was usually when I was stressed, when something was going on, and I had a very difficult relationship with my mom, very, very difficult. And I know whenever I had my orgasm, and it was never something sexual in the beginning, it was just more like pressure release because it felt so good. And I released the pressure that I got from my mom, like, she blaming me for so many things and always like criticizing me. And I was always put in my room for a very long time and playing there, obviously. And that's how I actually discovered that. And then I had a very best friend. And I know we were in elementary school where I just, said, like, let's hide under the bed. I have a secret to share. That's what I still remember. And I tried, like, first just by discussing these things, like talking like little children are doing, like that I have the secret, and if she knows of that secret, if she did like doing this too. And then I was teaching her, and obviously it didn't work out at all, because for her it was not happening. And that's where I realized that, okay, if that's something that she doesn't know, maybe more of the others also don't know, never asked anybody again, ever. And kept that as something, okay, that's just happening to me. And then I had 2 older brothers who like watched whatever kind of movies. They were older than I, and I was always allowed to watch the movies too. And then it's where you get introduced to like those movies where you have also the sexual scenes, and somehow finding your way into what is sexuality about. I mean, on the TV, obviously, yeah. And I connected it then also to orgasm, and realized that turned me on for was such a young person, like such a young child. And it was weird for me because whom are you going to talk to about that? I mean, not with my parents, obviously. My best friend for my whole elementary school, she didn't know about that either. So that was off the topic too then. And yeah, it was just then way later in my puberty, I think, when you start to read. Back then there was not much in the internet, because it was still like in the beginning stages of the internet, like just these used magazines where they talk about sex more openly, right? And yeah, then at some point, when I was 16, I lost my virginity. I had my first boyfriend, and then finding out that I cannot get these orgasms that you see sometimes in these movies, when they have sex, and then it accumulates to her and him having this amazing accumulation on what we call orgasm. And it never happened for me in that way, because I had sex with my partner, but then I had to kind of, trigger my own orgasm. It was never really happening with a boyfriend. And that was also something that was very difficult for me, especially in the beginning, because I always thought that this would happen once you have sex with a man, that it's like easy going, right? You just have the orgasm, because that's what most people, or most magazines, movies, and whatever you ingest as information were teaching. And that made me feel extremely weird. And I never thought that's something for me to explore further, because I thought like it's a man's job. And then I knew, okay, for the men, they don't really care so much if you were like having so much fun or not, because my boyfriends were also like the same age, and like, you know what I mean? And it's like weird. And then, yeah, the time progressed and still nothing happened. And I was like, okay, that's a fault on my, like, maybe something isn't working with me, or something wrong, something maybe with my vagina is different than for many others. And also with my girlfriends, we talked about everything but never orgasm. Rarely. And if then I heard them, yeah, they had their orgasms, I was like, oh my God, yeah, okay, cool. I don't, but I never said anything, because I felt like that's a shame. There's something to be ashamed of, and then obviously also starting to not enjoy sex at all. I preferred like having my own orgasm, because then at least you could enjoy it, and I knew how to do it. It was fast. And that was really hard, to having the whole world telling you how amazing sex is, and you feel like, but I don't enjoy it. Maybe in the beginning stages when you are with someone, or the first few times with someone new, but then it just gets like normal, like everything else. And then it felt so much hard work. And then it's more about finding the strategy to avoid having sex, or knowing, okay, I had sex yesterday. That means I can have like 1 or 2 weeks kind of space of not having it again, right? That's how I was thinking about it. And most years in my 20s, I have to say, and it took some time and revelations to change that.
Yeah, thank you. Please excuse any like door slamming that you may hear. It's the summer holidays, and the kids are here with that one of their friends is here playing, and they're doing some like role play game, make believe game, and there's been like door slamming. I'm like, okay, it's okay. It's the summer holidays.
No, I didn't hear anything, so I was just focusing on what I was talking. So
okay, good. Oh, it's happy door slamming. That's
yeah,
all you need to know.
Good. Yeah.
Wow. So it's such an interesting journey, because I resonate like really quite deeply with this idea of like discovering masturbation. Quite like I wasn't as young as you. I maybe was in primary school, but it was a very personal thing, and it didn't, as you say, like it didn't feel sexual, and it felt like, oh, like it's like kind of like what it is really, like getting to know my body, and like, oh, this does this, and it feels like this, and something, then you could feel some shift as a result of the thing that happened that I didn't even know what it was, and it was like but the same with you. I didn't talk about it, or like have other friends like share similar experiences, and I think it's a really interesting like thing to think about, that there's this kind of primary introduction to, which is like to our bodies, to our sexuality, like an opening into our sexuality, and then later, for me, there came this like almost initiation into like a deeper exploration of that sexuality and sensuality, which for me came in my 30s. And like it's almost like, I'm not like it's a computer game or a video game or whatever, but it's almost like kind of like this is like the first level, and then you go like, and then your body's ready to, you know, you and your body are ready to explore deeper. What did that look like for you? Like, was there like a turning point where things started to feel like you were being invited into more, or how did it progress?
Yeah, a good question. And what I just wanted to say is, like, when you said like in video game, you know, you have reached level 1 and then level 2, right? And it was like a few years ago, like I read, or I have heard that a couple of times when elder women, or not elder, but older women were saying like, oh, sex gets really good when you're in the 50s, you know, and gets even better, you know, as much when you progress in age. And as a maybe 20-year-old, I was like, oh, how the fuck, you know, how can that happen? You know, like then actually you have the assumption when you're young, like that it goes like, it gets even worse, right? Or that's like, how do you want to have sex when you're 50? Just, you know, oh, I don't even enjoy it right now, you know, and stuff like that. So, and now I fully get it. All the women who say like, oh, the self-confidence is just like, and not for everybody, right? But some of the women who are in the 50s or 60s, like, oh yeah, sex drive is really cool, it's good, and they're more confident, you know. And I never believed. I was like, oh, you're all nuts, you know. But yeah, now you saying that it started for you in your 30s, I was like, yeah, totally, for me too. So for me, I mean, I did so many things in my 20s. Like I experimented a lot of different concepts also when it comes to relationships. So with my 7-year-old boyfriend, 7 years, sorry, relationship of my ex-boyfriend of 7 years, we have, you know, done a lot of stuff like, you know, changing partners, like, you know, swinging stuff, like being a bit in this scene and exploring that in a very young age too. I think it was 23. And that was really interesting and really cool for me. But again, from the orgasm point of view, it didn't change much at all, you know, because I was just still in the belief of, nah, it's not for it, it won't happen for me. It has always to be me initiating my own orgasm. And yeah, and then in my 30s, what happened was I got to know my husband I met 7 years ago. That was in the beginning of my 30s. And he was the first man I was really safe with, really, really safe. Like he was so kind and so genuinely kind to me. And he was like really making sure that I had fun in bed, you know, and that everything, that we're exploring these things together and try things out, but it always felt safe. I never felt I had to prove something like I did in many other previous relationships of mine, or that I had to be a certain way. And it was also the first one that I had long, open conversations about my inability, quotation mark inability, to have an orgasm with somebody else, you know, and that how it actually impacts me, and that it's actually, I wouldn't admit that back then to myself in my 20s, but then I was like, it really bothers me because I don't want to not enjoy sex for the rest of my life, because it's actually good and I know it's good. So it was with him, and he was like reading, when I got to know him, I was like reading books about female orgasms from a man's point of view and how to induce that and what to do. Like there was a really good book that he recommended me reading, but then I was like, no, I'm not gonna read this book. I don't know why, but he was really like really good, and he managed to help me have an orgasm with him, you know, with with oral sex, so not with, you know, the other way around. But that was already an amazing progress for me, because it was the first man who ever made me orgasm after my own self, and that was huge. That was huge. And that opened up something where I was like, okay, maybe if he manages this way, maybe another way is also possible. And I always thought that the clitoris is the only way how to get an orgasm for myself, and that the other cervical orgasm is just maybe need to practice. But I was more open to the idea that this can happen. And yeah, so, and then I started also, when I met him with my own self-development journey, you know, I went into NLP, did the whole practitioner, master, and trainer, and changed so many things of the beliefs I held, and saw people transforming, and saw that was actually possible for every single person, not just for the superstars, you know, or coaching superstars or something, you know, it's like possible for all of us. And that really, really helped me. And then also being like exposed to Instagram, because then I started my own coaching journey as a coach, and went on Instagram so that I have my own online business, connecting to other coaches, healers in that space, and got like some of the, like, introduced to some ideas of, you know, womb and yoni, what is spiritual side of the whole orgasm, and or the whole, like, our own women's, like, own sexual organs, you know, and what approach it actually was. And it felt so much better. Like, it didn't feel like this, I don't know how to say this with pressure, you know. It felt like it just fitted so well in my own spiritual development, that I felt so open to explore, okay, how is it, like, how are some Eastern philosophies thinking, speaking, and viewing female organs, or the whole intercourse. And then I was doing a lot of work in the Tao, in the Eastern philosophy, in the Chinese philosophy, and that totally resonated with me, you know, where they say, like, women need to have an open heart in order to have an open yoni, and, you know, your yoni need to be kind of ready, you know, and she will tell when she's ready, you know, and not just, you know, the man just you know, stick into you or something like that, you know. So I got so much more sensitive in a way of, like, oh my God, this is all, of course, energy, and I can do something to open myself up energy wise, you know, and making my own yoni ready, you know, and see when is she ready, and not like pushing my own boundaries, or not having boundaries at all, right? And not just open your legs and that's it, you know. I mean, not like legs to everybody, obviously, but, you know, to your partner whenever he was horny and ready, because men can get horny and ready and off they go. But, and that's what I thought that it's all about. Like, I don't know how I came to that conclusion, but maybe it was like, yeah, so we have to do that too, even though I knew sometimes I would have needed more time, but then wasn't in the mood to even take so much time for that, you know. And so I decided to explore that on myself, and not put the responsibility on my partner expecting anything. Because I thought, like, if I don't explore the spiritual side of the whole thing and go into that, then how should my partner, you know, and my husband? So, and that's why I explored, like, breast massage, you know. And I really liked it because it was, again, never about the orgasm as the end result or end goal. It was just like, explore your own body, see what's actually, like, let's say, stored in your chest, and open your chest. Because if you open your chest, you open your heart. If your heart is open, your yoni gets open too, or your womb gets open too, because that's how they are connected in a way. And yeah, and then also, you know, learning about my cycle, my menstrual cycle, and knowing which are the days where I am, like, horny, or where I'm enjoying it the most. And now it's like, I tell my husband up front, like, okay, now the next few days I'm super horny, not because I expect it to be, because I'm already, you know, so he knows it. And then there are days where it's absolutely, I don't even want to be close to him. I just want to be, like, you know, by myself, you know, and accepting that that's our biology, and that is nothing weird. It's something I communicate. And yeah, so that's how I went about it. And I want to make a stop so that you can say something, and then I go further.
I love all of this so much. There's so much there, that there's just so much. And
I know.
One of the things that it really kind of springs out, well, there are two things, but they're kind of related, that it's almost like society, well, the society that I've grown up in, and you know, most of us have grown up in, is very fast and is very, it's like performance based and very like end game orientated. And so from what you've just been sharing, and my experience mirrors the same thing, is like the journey with sexuality, if you're approaching your life in the way that we're conditioned to approach life, then that your approach to sex is going to be similar. And then the films and the series, like sex is like that, on that, like all around us. And so then to actually take a step, and I think it really does have to be the woman who does this generally, because unless you have a lovely partner who's reading books about like your husband, but generally, like, the woman is going to set the tone. I'm not talking about like leading the way, but just setting the tone for what our bodies need, and slowing like the whole process down. And for me, that has been and continues to be a journey. And it's like the patience that I am cultivating in all areas of my life, and including in my sexual journey. It's like a whole remembering, rewiring, like everything to come back to a place where I'm not in a rush, and like you say, I'm not, it's not just about the like get horny and go. It's like it's a much more like tender like process that involves the heart. If you want to go beyond the kind of quick fix clitoris, which I like that sometimes, but there are times and there are places, and you know, and we get to like have the whole cocktail of different pleasure experiences. And this like, for me, this has also been a massive change. And it's interesting because when I speak to other women too, the turning point often is this like journey of personal kind of exploration and spiritual exploration, and then that starts getting incorporated, and then you realize the connection between the heart and the yoni, and then everything starts to kind of become more holistic, I guess. That's so I love what you're sharing. And I also love this when you were talking about the breast massage, because this is something which feels like very tangible and practical, that people can like start to explore, and that is very like, you know, it really is like your breasts are right there next to your heart. And it's something that intrigues me a lot. As I said last week, I haven't really explored breast massage in a very kind of concentrated way, but I'm very intrigued by your experience of this, and how it's helped you and supported you. Is there anything else that you want to share in relation to the breast massage, or do you feel kind of complete?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I just want to, because you said a few good points that I want to reiterate, because I think it's so important to really emphasize that. Because so I started my spiritual journey, I think I was like 22 or 23 when I started with like Buddhism, because there was something that was like back then also very, very not, I wouldn't say famous, but like I was an atheist, and I grew up Catholic, but as soon as I could have my joys, I was like, no religion anymore. And then the Eastern philosophies like Buddhism was something that spoke way more, intrigued me, you know. But the thing is about that is there's nothing about orgasms, nothing about female, or there's nothing about that, right? And not that I'm an expert at all in that, no, by no means, but like I read a couple of books. I was in a Buddhism center learning how to meditate, you know, and all those things, and it was never about that. So I think if there were some components to that, I would have started way earlier. But maybe it was also good because I wasn't ready, right? And I was just, you know, doing a lot of detours and my own experiences to get where I am today. So totally fine. And the other thing is because you said it's so beautiful, we women sometimes find our way into it when we go on our spiritual inner journey, which is so amazing, because that opens up a whole new world to us. So just also for the audience and for the listeners, that sometimes that's the best point to go in. And because for me back then, 7 years ago, when my husband said like, hey, I read this amazing book and you should read it because you understand the female orgasm, was like, no. And I was always a curious person, but I wasn't interested to just read it. Like it was kind of like this, okay, now I'm reading just a book about orgasms, right? But then there are so many spiritual like Tantra or Tao where it's just way more. It's not so technical. It's just like, it's a very holistic thing, as you also said before, right? So that was really cool. And also when you said like, oh, it's very result driven and performance driven, right? I mean, and that's the thing. If you as a woman, and most women I'm working with are in their masculine energy predominantly, and the older you get as a woman, the more you are in your masculine energy because you have more responsibilities to juggle. And that's where the whole pain really starts. It starts then also with physical ailments or diseases for women, because it comes from somewhere. So what I wanted to say is you can't explore your orgasm and your female sexual journey when you are in your masculine. It's not happening. And I didn't know about that because that was always my kind of, because I always like, okay, let's have, I would induce my own orgasm, and it's just like to have an orgasm, just to get it done with. I'm horny, just let's get it done with. And then it's good. Then I'm released. And that's such a masculine thing. It's not about like surrendering to that feeling of that and opening up and taking time. It was just like, okay, this is it. I have it, and done, And with that approach, it's just not working. And then that weaves into the breast massage, because I was like, okay, breast massage, cool, let's do it. I took a course, literally, because I was like, no, I want to really understand. I want to really practice this. And this was so amazing. I remember I was just in bed, and my husband was at night, had his night shifts in the hospital, and he knew he would come home like 2 or 3 hours later. And I had done a couple of minutes or half an hour for myself. And I switch up my routines, my rituals and routines in the morning, my spiritual practice. And that was the time where I just did a lot of breast massages and was like, okay, let's do it. And it was so good, because it's not just like, okay, breast massages, just take my boobs in my 2 hands and then just like do like this, It's like, it's a lot like you start with your lymphs, and then you kind of like, there's so many different techniques how you release energy blockages. And this was actually really beautiful, because like, oh my God, I'm sure I'm super blocked here, because we women, we armor our hearts, right? Especially when you're very much in your masculine too. You're always like, there's a reason why we operate from that, because we feel we have to prove our worthiness and all that stuff, So we cover our hearts. We get so much more. And so the women I'm working with, for example, they're all having their blockages in their breast, also in their chest. When I ask them, okay, where do you feel this? Is it in the chest or in the throat? And it makes sense to massage also, like physically, like the blocked energy from your body and opening your heart. And now it says like, if you have an open heart, you also open your yoni. If your heart is open, you're open to anything. But if your heart is closed, and if you just leave out the breasts, which I did for such a long time in sex, I was like never paying attention to my breasts at all. I was like, what good do they do, right? And then you lose such an essential component, because it's your heart. It's not just your breasts, right? I always see like that the breasts, and it doesn't matter your size, are like kind of the protectors, like the mountains, and then the treasure, your heart, is underneath, And to get there and just to activate your treasure and like shine through your mountain, as I would say, radiate outside the world, I need to open that. And I need to make that in a safe way. And yeah, so breast massage was just amazing. And it was really very often I wouldn't have an orgasm because I just enjoyed the massage itself. It gave me that feeling of such pleasure, but not necessarily this sexual pleasure only it can get to. But for me, it was way more like I do something for my own self. I don't need anyone. It's a sacred practice of mine. And just tune into that sensations that would come out of it, just the sensations. And that alone is a practice. Because we tend to feel like our sensations from our pussy, or from down there. But you can have it anywhere. And orgasms you can have everywhere on your body, actually. And it's about the sensations and the accumulation of the sensations and how it feels. And that was so fascinating for me. Like feeling my whole body vibrating by doing something without a freaking goal. I had no goal in mind. I was not attached to feeling something amazing. I was actually more like, okay, because that was I'm teaching my clients, don't approach something with the attachment to a result or that it has an outcome for you, because the outcome could take a while. And it's not about the outcome, it's about, as we always say, the journey. And that changed so many things. And then with going, like opening my heart and doing my breast massage, I also started to play around with the wands, crystal wands and stuff, and yoni egg. So of course that I did on top of that too. And it just helped me one day. And, I had my first orgasm with a crystal wand with a cervical orgasm. So it was the first time. And it was like, I didn't do it with my hands, like with my right hand, which I would rub my clitoris to get my orgasms. Like after it was like, I'm sure it was not my hand. Yeah, it was not my hand. Yeah. So it was like, because I took like 36 years of my life, not having it the other way around. So it was such a miracle for me. And it was so good. And I was so happy and proud of myself because I knew it's just possible. It's there. It's accessible for every woman. It doesn't matter how many years you have not had it or whatever belief you have. And yeah, but again, it was never the goal. I didn't do it just, because it was just like exploring my own body, learning about my own, body parts as well. I mean, as stupid as it sounds, but I had no clue about my body parts as well. Like, how do you name this? I said vagina to everything, even though it's not vagina technically, and it makes a difference in the end of the day. And then yoni was the word that really resonated the most. I was like, that's actually cute. And that's, it's this kind of language that feels like not dirty. It feels like actually cute, And there was also something I did that I just skipped. I slipped my mind. I might come back to it, but then like womb healing as well, it's like so many things that I did, which you don't have to, but it was more or less just exploring my body and what feels good and just on the sensations and not much like, okay, maybe I'm getting an orgasm. It was just like, what else? Because we women are so desensitized too. We don't even know what a pleasure and sensation is. If I ask my clients about their sensations, it's usually about something that's a discomfort. That's what they feel, but not as much like, okay, what do certain sensations feel in my body when I do my breast massage or when I play around with my own yoni or have my own breathing techniques that I'm breathing into my womb or in my yoni or open my heart with that. So there's so many things that you can do, and everyone approaches it in their own unique way, and there's no right or wrong, and that's the most important to understand too. It's just about getting to know your own themselves. Your own yourself, your own self. That's what I say. Yeah.
It's so like stunningly beautiful to hear you talking about all of that, because it feels like something that all women should know, and like we should be, not should, but like it is kind of should. Like when I think about my 9-year-old daughter and I think the transition that she's going to take now, like into puberty and like the transition into being a woman, like that was just completely bypassed for when I was that age. I literally like wanted to be like a man and I conditioned myself to be like a man and go and work in corporate and be you know, like that, because that's how you get recognized as being successful. And
Mm-hmm.
and then it just, like you said, completely takes you into your masculine energy. And then in that masculine energy, you can't go deeper into your feminine desire and sexuality, because it's just you're the other end of the pole. Like it's just not there.
Yeah.
So it feels like, and it feels like there is such a shift now around this topic, and around exploring, like you say, exploring our own bodies, and knowing that that's like the foundation. And I think that it's beautiful to hear you share that your first kind of penetrative, if that's how you say that word, like orgasm with penetration was, you know, with you and your world, and not like, and I think that this can be often like, we think like a man has to do it for us, or like, you know, it's like a man isn't good in bed because he's not giving me this cervical orgasm, where actually there's this foundation to lay first, which is about us as women feeling safe in our bodies, and really like opening our hearts, and opening our yonis, and opening our wombs, and feel like, and learning what those sensations feel like, and going on that journey of like, sensation based like journey, so that we can be open to the penetration that leads to that like incredible, like pleasurable experience of a deeper cervical orgasm when it comes. But it's like, it's not this thing that you just go and like buy online or buy in a shop. Like it's a whole it's like it comes from a relationship, doesn't it? It comes from a relationship with you and your body.
Absolutely.
And it's just like a byproduct, and not
Yes. It's, for me too, it's a byproduct. It's the cherry on the cake. And but I'm not going about it to eat the cake and just go right to the cherry. I enjoy everything else and then the cherry. So that's what I love when you were sharing this. It's so true. And the relationship with your body is so important. And also because I'm doing mostly somatic, teaching women how to feel, how to not be afraid of anger and rage. So I did so much with them that I asked myself, like, what am I doing with myself? How am I contributing here behind the scenes to my own journey? And that was like, I really tune into my body and have a relationship with the body, with my own biology, and working with my nature, with my biology, not against it. And that's why I also brought the cycle in. And I was like, okay, let's tune in there. And because there's so much that when we women know ourselves so well, men just accept that, and if not, then they are anyway not for you. But there's no arguing, there's no boundary, it's just like, that's me, that's how I am, but like speaking from the biology, that I don't want to have sex in a specific phase of my cycle, it's totally fine. I don't even need to tell anybody. It's just like, no, I'm not up for it. It's okay. It doesn't mean anything. And once you know your body so well, there's no shame anymore, or I need to prove something, because no, it's not. It's just, I know how amazingly my body is, like how amazing my body is, and what a wonder work it is. And to explore that even on a more intimate level with my own self, I think it just helps you also to be so confident, and just to be so like, that's it, it's a wonderful journey to be on, and it's a journey I will be on for the rest of my life. There is no end. It's not now that I created it, that it's done and fixed. No, because if I think like how I evolved the last 1 or 2 years, like spiritually, emotionally, and everything, how will it be also in a more sexual way, or having an even deeper connection to my body, that will also deepen way more if I stay on it. And definitely I will, because it opened the door to whatever is there.
Yeah. Oh, that's so lush. It's like, I'm grounded, I'm here, I'm like in my body, and I'm here for the rest of my life to keep deepening this relationship. It's like, just makes me feel so just juicy.
It is, and it's such a sacred ceremony with you first, and then with whoever you want to share it with. But that's it, So and it really helps, because I tell my husband, no, today I don't want, or I tell him, no, I want to have like a little bit more of foreplay, or want to like take a little bit more time or slow it more down. Now I can tell him, and men are so happy if you tell them what you need and what they can do to make your experience even better. And all the men are getting, and I know from so many elder friends of mine, like men who tell me like, I don't have sex with women who don't enjoy it, or they don't enjoy sex when the woman isn't enjoying it. That might not be the truth for a 20-year-old one, maybe yes, but not like from my experience back then. And that's fine, because they're also finding themselves. And now I can just tell exactly how I want it, and I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel like I'm boring or taking too much time. Not on the contrary. Now I feel like it's a given that I'm slowing things down. And sometimes it can be super fast and juicy and like, and a volcano or whatever. But most of the time it's not. And I like it that way. I'm not a machine that I used to think I am, or have to operate like,
I'm not a machine. I'm a woman. Oh, I love it. We're kind of coming to completion time. I feel like I could talk to you for hours about this, so you might have to come back and another time.
We have so many other things in store, so many other experiences that we shared last week with you. So maybe we can do a part 2. And I would love to go in more depth of like the Eastern philosophies, how they view it, because it really helps so much to connect to you from a mindset or from a level that's not from the patriarchy that we all got so influenced in, from something where you are viewed as equal. And maybe that's something you want to talk about, then please read.
Yeah, I definitely do, because I was gonna pick that up and I was like, oh, I can't go there now, because I could talk about it for such a long time. But I'm so grateful to you for this conversation, and for also everything that you're doing in the world, all the magic that you're sharing. And I appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Helen. I also have to say thank you for doing such important work too with the podcast and spreading the word, because I think it cannot be talked enough about it. And I have to say, it's not a cheesy statement. It's really like that. Sometimes it's just a perspective shift some people need to hear receive, and you are opening that to the audience. So thank you so much for inviting me and for this amazing lush conversation.
My pleasure. And just finally, where can people find you? Where is the easiest place to connect with you? And if there's anything else that you want to share around that?
Thank you. So the best place to connect with me is on Instagram. Even if you're not using Instagram often, that's where you find all the information about me, and to my website. And my Instagram handle is femmagical. It's FEM and then magical. And that's the number one place where you find me every day, with a lot of content too regarding this. So
Amazing. Oh, thank you. And I will talk to you soon.
Talk soon, Helen.
Okay.
Thank you.